Good afternoon everyone, Rob from Oasis Skeen Buyers Agents. A common question that we get from certain clients is, where do I find positive cash flow properties? Now over time I've discovered that positive cash flow properties tend to be found in certain areas, or they appear as certain types of properties with this distinct characteristics. So today I've compiled a list of 10 places to be able to find these positive cash flow properties and hopefully answer your questions in regards to that. So number one is country towns. It can be pretty easy to generate positive cash flow in country towns, ensuring you get a tenant, of course. Rental yields in country towns tend to be higher than their neighbouring regional centres. However, as the population of the town is less, the demand for rentals is also going to be less. This means that there's a high possibility of long vacancies as you make it quite, sort of harder and difficult to rent out your property. To make it really work, you really do need a good rental manager, and you will need to own a property that is exactly what the market wants. It could be that everybody wants a 4-bedroom home with 2 living spaces, or a double brick home with a pool, air conditioning, a house with double garage. Every town is different, so you really need to do your research before buying. If you get it right, it means that everyone in the town looking for your rental is at least going to consider it. The greater the pool of people considering your property, the better chance you have that someone will rent your property. On a side note, banks and lenders are much more hesitant to lend money for properties in country towns. Prices tend to fluctuate more than larger areas, and sometimes it can take a long time to sell your property when it comes time. Many lenders will reject your application straight away and will likely require 20 to 30% deposit. So be very careful. It's a good idea to speak to a mortgage broker before making any offers. Not all country properties are hard to rent out, so just bear that in mind. Number 2, mining towns. Obviously mining is a big industry in Australia, and mines are generally located in remote areas with just one local town. Because miners earn good money, and because the demand for these properties is a lot higher in these areas, the rental yields are usually, pretty good as well. They're usually quite high. So mining towns in WA can have rental yields of up to, say, 13% or higher. However, these properties will also cost you almost, double what other properties might be. So you could be paying up to $1 million for a 3-bedroom shack in the middle of nowhere. There's not a lot of money. There is a lot of money to be made in mining towns, but you really do need to weigh up the risk versus reward. Do your own research well and look deep into the mining companies and what stages they are at with their businesses in those areas. Worst case scenario is having a major mine close down and you are stuck with the property and you can't rent it out and you can't sell it because no one lives in the area anymore. The government's also making some changes in mining towns where they're opening up new land for development or allowing mines to create their own accommodation to try and put an end to the extreme housing prices in those towns. Every state and every town is different, so as always, do your research before buying. Number 3, rural town centres. Now, rural town centres can be an excellent place to locate positive cash flow properties, and really it is probably the best place I would advise to start looking. As the towns are a lot smaller than the capital city, the prices of the properties is generally much more affordable. You can also afford to buy a house instead of a unit, thus avoiding the expensive strata costs that come with units. Rental yields can be quite high in these regional centres as well. I know of one regional centre where you can find properties with a 9.5% rental yield. Research your particular town in as much detail as possible before buying. You really want to understand the demographics, the employment breakdown, the average incomes and population growth. The more jobs in the area, the more people. This often equates to higher rents and better housing prices. So you'll probably want to invest in a town with a strong and growing economy. On a side note, most lenders are happy to lend money to purchase properties in regional centres as long as the population is in excess of 10,000 people. If the town is below 10,000 people, you might find it more difficult to secure lending, and it's probably unlikely that you're going to get a 95% loan. Also, you might need a 20% deposit. So speak to your mortgage broker for specific details about the town that you're interested in. Number 4, we've got blocks of units. Did you know that some blocks of units still exist on one single title? Now, units are usually broken up into what we all know as strata title, but That means, that each unit's individually owned. However, there are still blocks of units that haven't been strata titled and exist on just the one title. If you can find these properties, you can often achieve a very high rental yield. The very first cash flow property I ever found was a block of units in a country town. I found in some regional centres and went on to find all types of positive cash flow properties. There are many great things about blocks and units on single titles. You don't have to pay strata fees. You minimise the vacancy risk. If one unit out of the 10 is empty, you're still earning 90% of your potential rental income. Now, lenders often treat it similar to commercial property, and they may lend on the income of the property, not your personal income, so that's advantageous as well. However, if that is the case, this means you will most likely require a 30% down payment, just like commercial property. Otherwise, you'll have to pay lenders mortgage insurance. Number 5, the inner city. The inner city can also generate high rental yields if you find the right property in the right location. The downside is that regardless of the property you buy, it is usually quite expensive compared to the regional centre or even suburbs of capital cities. The upside is that the demand in the inner city is high, and thus you don't have to worry about vacancies as much. Prices are less likely to fluctuate, and you can often achieve good capital growth. Now, it appears that smaller apartments, studios and one bedrooms usually achieve higher rental yields than the larger 2 or 3 bedroom apartments in the inner city. So it's also more common to rent out the property by the room. It can be more profitable to hire out 3 bedrooms individually than simply hire out the property as a single 3-bedroom apartment. However, this will require more work. Do bear that in mind. Once again, perhaps get a good property manager. Now, car parks. This is a very good one. Did you know you can purchase a car park in some city areas and rent out the car spot? Not too dissimilar from a property. Yes, you can. Absolutely you can. A contact of mine sold an airport, it was a car park. It was like car spaces, and it was similar to the park and fly scenario. So people would hire it. It was near Sydney, Kingsford Smith Airport, and they'd pick up their car a couple of days later, a week later. Obviously quite common, people that travel regularly. Now at that time they were about $75,000 a car space, and they were returning a whopping 8% yield, and they absolutely sold like hotcakes to investors. Now, how easy is the maintenance? You guessed it, just paint the yellow lines every 5 years. So pretty easy in terms of maintenance. Now, you could purchase a car spot or garage in the city or near a popular train station perhaps and rent it out to generate passive income. It's also very common for large car parks to sell their car spots individually to investors or the surrounding businesses from time to time. Extra tip, if you own a property, it may be more profitable to lease out the home and the car space / garage separately. Number 7 is commercial real estate. Now, commercial real estate can be more expensive to get into as you require a 30% deposit rather than the 20% required for residential property, but it can deliver great cash flow returns. The rental yields for commercial properties tend to be higher than that of residential counterparts. When you add in the fact that the tenant pays for most of the costs, renovations and often council rates, utilities, so strata levies as well, your property is more likely to be positively geared. Firstly, most lenders will only lend up to 70% of the purchase price, meaning you'll need to find a larger deposit. You're also dealing with different tenants and businesses and different rental managers. The lease agreements are also remarkably different. As with any property, I do suggest seeking professional financial advice before proceeding with any purchases. Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, suggests that people start with smaller investments first. That way, if you make mistakes, it costs you less. He then suggests you work your way up to bigger deals as you gain experience. This way you can scale your experience and make it more money faster. You can make more money faster. You want to consider this advice before you purchase any multi-million-dollar commercial property as your first ever investment. Now, number 8 is popular suburbs. Positive cash flow properties exist all over Australia, even in popular suburbs within capital cities, or anywhere else for that matter. One house is on the market for $640,000. Now that was 4 bedrooms, and another was on the market for $780,000 for a 4-bedroom house with a granny flat. The key is to look for ways that you can create a positive cash flow by adding rental value. If you don't create the value in these positive suburbs, your chances of finding positive cash flow are very slim. The key term here is dual occupancy, turning one property into multiple rental incomes. See, a 4-bedroom house will only generate so much rental income for you. However, if you split that 4-bedroom property into 2 by 2 bedroom properties, you can almost always get more than you would if you just rented the entire house to one family. One family might be willing to pay $800 a week for a house in Sydney, but a 3-bedroom unit commonly go for $350 a week, and 2-bedroom units from $450 to $550 a week. A 4-bedroom house split into 2 with a 1-bedroom granny flat could generate as much as $1,350 a week instead of the standard $800 a week. And that 4-bedroom houses in the area, that's what 4-bedroom houses in the area are getting. Now, the New South Wales government made it a lot easier to build granny flats on your property as they're trying to lower the cost of housing. Some councils, if you keep to their requirements, you don't even need to get approval or even have to submit a development application, which is absolutely amazing. That's awesome. Number 9 is derelict properties. Now, derelict property, rundown properties can often be bought at a large discount compared to the rest of the market. Less buyers are willing to purchase a fixer-upper. They want to buy a house they can move into and live comfortably right away. They don't want a house where a lot of work needs to be done. Now, this offers you an opportunity. If you're willing to roll up your sleeves and do some renovating, you could potentially purchase a property for well below market value. And if you keep your renovation budget within reason, you create both equity and positive cash flow. If you're interested in purchasing rundown properties and renovating, I strongly suggest getting Sherry Barber's Renovating for Profit book and also information off her website, which she covers lots of tips and tricks in renovating properties to either sell or flip. Okay, number 10, properties that have been on the market for a long time. Now, sellers often start out, they're highly optimistic about their price. Then they find out that the market doesn't meet their expectation. They start to lower their price and expectations. And if the property stays on the market long enough, you have the opportunity to secure it well below the market value. Because after a while, let's face it, people start to go, why has it been on the market so long? There must be something wrong with the house. Anyway, the key is that you have no idea what the seller's financial situation is, and placing that low ball offer, they might very well accept it. So, buying it under market value and being able to rent it out at a really good price can enable you to create a positive cash flow in that regard as well. So guys, that's it. That's our 10 tips on how you can get out there and find positive cash flow properties by yourself, your own DIY. Good luck with it. Just a quick recap of what I was talking about, and that is, number 1, find townships in Australia. Number 2, determine the population of that town. Use Wikipedia. That gives you an idea of the population of that particular town. Number 3, research property values in the area. Follow the auction results. If you can, attend some of the auctions there. Also, look at the sold section of realestate.com and domain.com. You can filter it out to bedrooms, if it's renovated, not renovated, garage, bathrooms, etc. And you can really compare apples with apples, so you get to understand the value. And as I said, in that regard, then try and buy under market value. And number 4, determine the rental yield of the area before you buy. Folks, that's it from me. If you have any questions at all, or you'd like to reach out and need some advice, my details are below. Until next time, see you soon.